Hello there. I just wanted to tell you the story that lies behind Hope Through Horses. And I do hope you've enjoyed reading the website. And please, if you have any questions about anything that's written there, do get in touch with me and I'd love to talk with you. But the story that lies behind it is an experience of mine. For almost 30 years, I suffered from an eating disorder. Well, two eating disorders. I kind of fluctuated between bulimia, big sessions of bulimia, and months and months of anorexia where I starved myself. Now the bulimia took the form of purging and binging, sometimes up to 8, 9, 10 times a day. I would stuff myself, binge on chocolate, cake, biscuits, ice cream, anything that I guess I saw as comfort food. And then I would purge. I would just vomit up the whole lot. This behaviour came about from about the age of 15. I was very, very young, and I had a long 2-3 years of actual anorexia where I ate absolutely nothing, which was then followed by this bulimic behaviour. And after that, we fluctuated between the two, months of anorexia and months of bulimia. Behind all of this lay fear. I was so fearful of life itself. Everything made me anxious. Everything scared me. Everybody around me was better, prettier, more beautiful than I was. I was plagued by self-repulsion, self-loathing, everything that was negative. I was a bad person. I didn't deserve to live, and I certainly had nothing to offer this world. Nothing. And the purging and the vomiting and the bulimia and the anorexia were all symptoms of that belief about myself. But what I discovered when many, many years later, almost 30 years later after my symptoms began, was that what lay beneath this behaviour was fear. Deep, deep rooted fear. And actually it was fear of myself. But it was further down the line that I discovered this. So after I'd been struggling with this eating disorder for the best part of 30 years, between 25 and 30 years, I was given, well actually my son was given, yes I did manage to have one child, my son was given a pony, a little old lady. Now this pony was a very smart little pony. It was a little 12-hand section B Welsh pony. He was very, very smart. He took one look at me and saw pretty much what I saw in myself, which that I was a waste of space, worthless. He did not want me in his space. And so he tried every tactic to get me out of his space and as far away from him as possible. And what he used to do, first of all, I went up to talk to him, is he'd sneak his head round and he would bite me on the ankle quite hard and it hurt. And then if that didn't work, because I used to try so hard to be courageous around him, because he was only small, he wasn't actually that big, he would turn his back on me and he would kick out with all his force. And that really did work. That propelled me out of his space and he could get on with doing what he wanted to do, which was usually grazing. So this was his opinion of me, and I was devastated by that, because my son, meanwhile, got on with him really well. But then he didn't have the same opinion of himself that I did. So some months passed, and in order to keep this little pony company, we acquired a bigger horse. There's a lot of people around me who were very persuasive. I was petrified of getting this horse. I was petrified of the pony himself. I know it sounds really stupid to say I was petrified of him, but I really, really was. He scared me, but then everything scared me. So this pony had a larger horse to keep him company. We got a section D, and she was black, and she was called Bronwyn. Well, she still is called Bronwyn. I still have both of them, amazingly. And this is nearly 20 years ago. So all those years ago, this beautiful, beautiful black horse came into my life. She was supposed to be for my son to ride, but he pretty much lost interest, and she and he did not see eye to eye, because she was a very, very sensitive, kind, sweet, extremely young horse. She was only 5, which for someone who hadn't got a clue, someone with absolutely zilch self-esteem, who had never had a horse in her life, only ridden a horse as a child and very badly. It was a pretty stupid thing to do, but I did things like that, unfortunately. And we ploughed on. But Bronwyn arrived, and from the minute she saw me, she reacted very differently to Gus. Gus, the pony, kicked me and bit me to get me out of his face. Bless her heart, Bronwyn just ran away. She took one look at me and couldn't deal with me. She just could not deal with me. Because what horses do in the herd is they get comfort from each other. They look around the herd to see what's going on with them. And if they see that all is calm and no one else is afraid of anything, it brings them into that place too. They feel peaceful and they feel safe. But this poor horse only had me for company, and I was about as far from safe as you could possibly imagine. I was utterly unsafe, utterly ungrounded, and completely and utterly the opposite to a leader of any shape or form. And Gus the pony, he really wasn't a huge comfort either. He was just doing his own thing. He's always been quite not a loner exactly, but he always was one for doing his own thing. So he didn't help her either. So she was left with me. I was her herd, and what a horrific herd I was for the poor horse. Now this beautiful creature had never had trauma of any kind in her life. She'd been loved, she'd been backed beautifully, she'd behaved beautifully, she was kind, she was sensible, she was most people's idea of the perfect horse. But in my company, all that changed. And he'd taken one look at me, seeing how utterly hopeless I was going to be at helping her to gain her confidence in her new home. She fell apart, and her only course of action was to run away from me and stay as far away from me as she possibly could. So on the odd occasion when we did finally get together, and I found ways to lure her into my company, and that usually was luring through food, we battled. I was told that I had to start as I meant to go on. In other words, I must be the boss, I must dominate her, and I must tell her that she had to obey me. That's what I was told by all the people around me. Get on and make her listen. She must do as she is told. She must be subservient. And this went against the grain. It so badly went against everything that I felt was true. And I had a pile of books beside my bed on natural horsemanship, on how to have a relationship with your horse. And this pile of books reached the ceiling. It was huge, and I read them all. I could not get enough information about how to create a relationship with my horse. But armed with all this knowledge, something was missing. Something wasn't working. Because the relationship stayed the same. She ran away, and I remained a failure. Everything I tried to do ended in disaster. I tried to get on her back. She would walk away. I tried, eventually, once I had got on her back, to walk out of the gate and down the lane. But we ended up reversing all the way back, or at very worst, we would spin round and end up heading back to the safety of the paddock where she lived with the pony. It was all disastrous, and I spent a lot of my time in tears over this horse because things went from bad to worse. I tried different saddles, because surely it must be the saddle. I tried different bits. Surely the bit must be the problem, because that's what the books all said. Check their backs, check the saddle, check the bit. Nothing worked. Nothing worked. Until one day, in utter despair, about 3 months after I'd got her, we called in a horse whisperer. I'd read about them in my books, so I knew what they were, but I had no idea how they operated. So we called in this man, and he put a head collar on her with a long rope, and he led her away to the centre of the field. And there I watched, and I watched in dismay for myself and awe of him. Because what he did was he did various exercises, and I really couldn't work out what he was doing. But this horse had both her ears, both her eyes absolutely glued to him. She thought he was amazing, absolutely amazing. Which is certainly not what she thought of me. And then he came back to me about half an hour later, having done these exercises, and he said, well, what we've been doing is we've been communicating with her in a way that she'll understand. We've been talking to her with our body language and our energy and our intention. And through that, she understood what I was trying to tell her. And he handed me the rope. And he said, there we go, now you're going to do it. And I completely freaked out. And so did Bronwyn. Amazing reflection here. She took one look at me and she snatched that rope out of my hand and ran as fast as she could to the far edge of the field and wouldn't come back. That was the end of that session. In utter despair and complete misery, all my worst fears had been confirmed that I was a failure. I was good at failing. It was something I'd always done, and I believed fully, wholeheartedly, that that's who and what I was. But I went back to my books, and for something in me, made me plough on. I could not give up. I thought, right, okay, I'm going to get this horse whisperer back, because there's something I'm missing here. I don't get what's going on. Something is missing. I called him back, but I was determined. Darn it, I was determined, and I was going to succeed. I was going to get this right. I was going to have this relationship with the horse. So I got him back, and I watched more closely, and I paid attention, and I had this determination now, which added a certain extra intention to everything that I was asked to do. So this time, after he'd done his exercises with her, he handed me the rope, and I'd watched him closely, and I gave it a go. I just began to try to do what he had done, and he'd sent her out on a circle, and he'd watched her, and he'd listened to her, and he'd felt her, and he'd told me a whole load of stuff about her, which were all completely accurate. And I tried to replicate that. And in tiny, tiny bits I managed, I succeeded. She didn't actually pull out of my hand. So as far as I was concerned, that was a success. And by the end of our little microscopic session together in front of this horse whisperer, as he spoke and tried to explain to me what she was telling me about me, the penny began to drop. He said, she is showing you your fear. The reason you can't do anything with her because she's replicating your fear, and she has nothing to bounce that off. She has no other herd members to check in with to see where this fear is coming from and whether this fear is something she needed to have as well. So because I was feeling it, she felt it too. So what he showed me is a reflection of me, or what she was showing me was a reflection of my fear. Now horses always do this. They always show us a reflection of ourselves. But when you keep them naturally in a herd, as I've now later discovered so many years later, they don't reflect us in the same way. They first of all scan us and they check our fear levels. Then they scan the rest of the herd. What is this fear? Is this something that I need to be concerned about? Is there a threat I'm not seeing? So they look at the rest of the herd for confirmation as to what these fear levels could possibly be. And when they see the rest of the herd is utterly unperturbed by our fear, they then check the environment just to be sure. Are there any lions hiding behind that tree? Is there a plastic bag about to loom up through the wind and into their space? And when they realise that there's nothing out there, nothing to be afraid of, they come back to us and they just see our fear for what it is, our fear. But they can only do that if they have other horses to get confirmation from. When it's just the two of us, you and your horse, you're their herd. So if you are full of fear, the horse, of course, will replicate that. So our job is to change ourselves. As we change, as we see our fear within us and do something about it, so can they. So this left me with the task of unlocking the source of the fear within me. I hadn't even realised that it was within me. I'd imagined it was the world outside that made me scared. Other people, because they were cleverer, more beautiful. Situations that I couldn't possibly handle. I hadn't got the confidence to do that. I was rubbish at school. I was rubbish as an adult. How could I deal with all those things? It was just not possible. So I imagined my fear came from something outside. But what Bronwyn taught me, this beautiful, phenomenal horse, that there was just her and me around. That's all there was. So this fear has got to be inside me. Because this horse wasn't something to be afraid of. It was me I was afraid of. And she was simply copying me, just being what she thought the rest of the herd was doing and trying to manage it the very best she could. So what we did over the coming months was to learn between us how to release the fear that's inside me. And to do this, I had to learn what was going on inside me. And by that, I mean my inner landscape. Because our fear is not only locked in our memories, in our mind, but it's also locked in our bodies, in our very system, in our nervous system, and in the responses and reactions that we've had to fear in the past. When you look back over the course of your life, much of which you won't remember from babyhood, every tiny fear-filled situation, whether that's by an event or a human being, from the moment we're born and probably before, causes us to react. Now that reaction is a bodily reaction. We tense, we tighten, parts of us react, we back off, or we curl up. We do a million different things to protect us from what we perceive as danger. And in that moment, that piece of fear, that energy of fear is locked in that reaction within our system. And that is our job, is to unlock that. And to do that, we have to get in and find where those parts of us are that are locked in. It's like frozen memories, frozen energy within us. And to do that, we go inside. And when we start to breathe, and that's the first step, is to learn to breathe down through your body, down your spine, into your legs and into your feet, and watch and notice how that breath travels through the body. Where does it get stuck? Where does it tighten? Where can't you breathe? Can you breathe at all sometimes? Do you hold your breath? Can you feel it in your chest? Does it lock when it gets into your stomach? Can you feel it as your arms feel limp or tight, or your shoulders, or your chest, or your belly, or your knees? Can you feel your legs at all? And as you begin to learn how to travel down your body in this way and into the ground, you begin to learn who you are, the whole of you. The memories that are locked within that body, as well as the memories that are in your mind, that have caused and created such high, intense levels of anxiety and fear. And those intense levels of anxiety and fear create the symptoms which we then live by. And with me, it was the eating disorder. The locked-in behaviours came from those locked-in memories of fear. So my bulimia was trying to rid me of fear. My anorexia was trying to disappear from life itself because I couldn't cope with it. All these things are locked within us, not from the outside, not from the people that caused them and created them in the first place. They're inside us. And when we know that that's where we can begin, my goodness, it gives us a sense of power. We've got somewhere to start. We've got somewhere where we can be in charge. We can manage this. We can do it ourselves. With guidance, with help and support from the outside. But it's from within that we can begin to work on ourselves. And it's just such an amazing revelation. So Bronwyn and I, slowly but surely, began to work. And as I watched her responses to me, and what the amazing horse whisperer taught me is how to watch her, and to see her, what her responses were and what they meant and what she was trying to tell me and how she was feeling in relation to me, I could begin to make changes to me. It took ages because I had to learn how to ground myself. I had to learn how to come out of my back door, my kitchen door, and go and fetch her without my heart literally being in my mouth and my breathing almost non-existent, with the fear that I had to overcome in order to just begin each session with her every day. I know that sounds so exaggerated and so ridiculous, but it was absolutely true. And it does make you wonder why I'd even bothered to have a horse that was clearly giving me so little enjoyment. But something deep within me pushed me on. I knew, beyond my conscious mind, that she was the answer to my recovery. 25, 30 odd years of an eating disorder and a very isolated life was ridiculous. It was a waste of life. I wasn't living. I wanted to live. I wanted to be alive. I wanted to feel something other than fear. I wanted to feel happiness, joy, comfort, calm, confidence. So we began. she and I reading each other. It's like being two members of a herd. And when you watch the herd, do come see ours, by the way, because we work with what's called the natural herd model. Come see our herd and watch how they watch each other, how they're utterly in tune with each other the whole time. They never let up. They know and feel and sense each other. And they're aware of the other's thoughts, the other's body language, the other's communications with them, everything. And this is what I had to get from my lovely Bronwyn. And this is what she taught me as we learned together, like learning a brand new language. I learned the language of me, the language of how to communicate with myself, how to help myself let go of each piece of fear that stops me from doing life itself. Each piece of fear that locked me within myself, like a prison. As we unlocked these tiny parts, what Bronwyn did, which spurred me on beyond anything, she rewarded me in a way I cannot really even begin to describe. She was magical. Each time she felt me just let go and think, do you know what? It'll be what it'll be. For me, that was the beginning. Just to say, it'll be what it'll be. It doesn't matter if I fail or succeed. Let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. Which I know is obvious probably to the most of you, but wasn't to me. I set myself up for failure over and over again. So when I have these moments of, okay, let's give it a go, it was magical. She used to wrap her beautiful, kind, soft head around me, just like she would a fall, with such tenderness and love. And the warmth I felt from her makes me want to cry just thinking about it, because I still get it. She just gave me this intense warmth of love, just from the fact that I'd got something right that made us both feel just a fraction more comfortable and more at peace and more at ease with each other. And this reward came with a dropping of her energy. She dropped her head, she dropped her energy right down, which in turn helped me relax even more. She was amazing. So she taught me bit by bit how to let go, how to relax, how to drop myself into the ground and steady myself, stabilize myself, give myself a sense of security. And each time I did that, I get this wonderful, wonderful, loving reward. So beautiful, such a loving reward. And it spurred me on. I became I didn't become almost, I became actually quite obsessed with this. It was my new addiction. The eating disorder had been one, and now we were on to another. But as the months went by, and obviously I got more help from different fabulous people, and from the Horse Whisperer again, so many different amazing people. And I began to build and learn. I learned hypnotherapy, I learned counselling, I learned sensory motor psychotherapy, which works on the body and the mind, so powerful. And I learned from some of the best teachers. And I just watched and I observed and I listened. And gradually, as the years went by, I gathered more horses, because each one had a different personality. Bronwyn's was full of love and warmth, and she looked after me and truly devoted herself to me. Obviously, there was also the pony, who just saw me with the utter disrespect that I deserved at that time. But as he saw me change, as he saw me doing something about myself, he began to change too, and his behaviour towards me became more respectful as I began to have a little bit of self-respect as well. And then we gathered other horses. There was Comet, who was like, if he'd been a person, he would have been a colonel in the army. He was a leader, he was a disciplinarian. He had the rest of the horses jumping to it when he asked them to do something for them. He was a fabulous, amazing horse. And the more horses we got, the more amazing a leader he became. And they loved him because they felt so safe with him. I was terrified of him too. When I first met him, he was far too male, too dominant, too in charge, too powerful. It freaked me out. But once again, we learned together. He would gentle himself to help me, and I would lift and pull myself up to help myself match him. So over the months there again, I learned so much more by changing my energy, but understanding actually that what they live by all the time is listening to intention, but also energetically. They feel energy. They feel the energy of us. They know the energy of themselves. and they try and rebalance it to an equilibrium, to create an equilibrium, to create a harmony within themselves and all those around them. Because by creating this harmony, they keep the herd safe. They contain and protect the energy that they need so badly in order to run if a predator comes, because they are prey animals. They also maintain optimum health by maintaining that energy. They don't waste time hanging on to stress. They release it. They let go of it. It dissipates. They're not daft enough to hang on to it like we are, because they see danger, they deal with it, and they let go. In a natural environment, that is. When we perhaps keep them in a less natural environment, that's harder for them, because they don't have the opportunities and the company and the space and the ability to let go in quite the same degree. Which is why we feel very strongly about the natural herd, the natural environment, because then they can react and let go and respond naturally in a way they would in the wild. Like nature itself heals itself, re-establishes itself, rebalances itself. It's exactly what they do with each other and with us. It's phenomenal. To watch in action, it is phenomenal. And what that beautiful horse, and all the horses we've got since, and there's many of them, some we've had that have been rescued, and that's what we do now. We do take in rescue horses when we have a space, and we take them into the herd, and we watch what the herd does with them, what Roman did with me. It is to help that horse rebalance and re-establish regulation of the nervous system, a balance of feeling safe in the herd, with the company of the other horses, and with the ability to re-establish that balance for themselves in the end, once the herd have taught them how to do that. That's what they've done to me. But each one with their different personality. It's as though each one works with a different aspect of themselves, because each one is so different and has so many different strengths and qualities. It helps us to establish and create a pull on our strengths, and to bring those parts of us that we are fearful of, those parts that we don't trust, which we call weaknesses, which aren't weaknesses at all, they're just parts we're afraid of. Pull them into the light and show us, literally bring them into the light and show us what those parts are, identify them, recognise them, and teach us how to feel confident with them and see that they are just, it's okay, they are just memories. They're just parts of us that have been caught up in a lost memory of fear, and that we can let go of those, and it's safe to do that now. So that's us. We've now got 16. We did have up to 20, but sadly horses get older, and some don't continue into very old age. 30s, I think, is a good age. We've had 2, sadly, this year that had to be put to sleep through age. And we've still got 16. Some of them very small and some of them larger, but each one with their own beautiful, wonderful healing power, their beautiful, wonderful personalities. And they're all kept naturally as we possibly can, so that you can retain those natural qualities and responses, working with nature, working utterly at one with nature, at its strongest and most powerful. Do come and see us. If you ever feel that this would be helpful to you, to do something differently that's so powerfully, we'd love to see you. So please do come. We'd love to see you. Goodbye for now, and hope to meet you. Bye.